Welcome everyone. Greetings, Lumpur.
Greetings.
Wonderful to have you in this Dharma stream once again. We'd like to now formally pay respects to you, to welcome you.
I'm just seeing myself at the moment. Should I do something, put on gallery or something? Should I?
Yes, please. If you can put yourself in gallery and then you can see the wonderful people who have come and joined us today.
Yeah, okay. Thank
All
you.
your old friends, see?
Yeah.
Right. So I will now formally welcome you, Lumpur. We'll invite Cheryl to lead us and pay respects to you.
Brothers and sisters, let's pay respect to Lumpur by bowing 3 times. Bow.
So Lumpur would like to now invite you to kick off the session by leading us in a short guided meditation.
Okay. Just first of all, just like to say nice to see everybody, and greetings from the Western Paradise Kuti at Chithurst Buddhist Monastery. I live in paradise here. See? And for this special gathering, I put on my Sunday best, as you see. It also happens to be my Monday best, my Tuesday best, and the rest of the day's best. But anyway, yeah. So nice to see you all. And yes, we're going to have a period of meditation now. Okay. So a period of meditation is an opportunity to turn our attention inward. And to bring our awareness into the present moment as best we can. Now, one thing that informs us that we're in the present moment is if we can maintain some awareness of the physical body. If we have some awareness of the body, then we have some awareness in the present moment. When we lose the physical body, maybe we're off in the realms of time. So we can use mindfulness of the body just to help compose the mind and bring our attention more into the present moment. And we can use the breath, this anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. And we can use the breath really to tune in with the experience of the physical body in the present moment. Like following the breath in. The breath comes in through the tip of the nose. We may, as we follow the breath in, we may notice the expansion of the chest and the abdomen. So it helps us to sort of just be aware of the sensations in the physical body. So this word sati, mindfulness, means to hold something in mind, something skillful in mind. So holding the breath in mind. And the benefits of this is it helps us to bring our attention from sort of proliferations of the mind into the present moment and to have more of a calming effect on the mind. And, just with a gentle effort, do that, not like grit your teeth effort. Just noticing the bodily sensations that inform us. Now we're breathing in, now we're breathing out. All the different sensations of the body, the tip of the nose, expansion, contraction of the chest, rising and falling of the abdomen, feeling the buttocks on the seat, just sweeping down through the body, following the breath in, sweeping up through the body, following the breath out, relaxing, calming. Naturally, thoughts will come and go, but just like using the breath and the mindfulness of the body not to get carried away with the thoughts. Noticing the train of thought, then bringing our awareness back to the breath, back to the body. Patiently, kindly. Just resting our awareness on this peaceful flowing of the in and out breath. And when we make this intention to more stay with the breath and the body, it does help us to get this perspective on our thoughts. A lot of the time people are quite identified with the thoughts. This helps us maybe more observe the thoughts more. This is the place of the Buddha, the place of awareness that can be aware of the different thoughts, but not get carried away by them, not to just blindly believe them, but to be aware. Some thoughts can be skillful, but some unskillful. Some can be true, some not true. So it's good to just get this wise perspective on the thinking mind, which when we do choose to step out of the thoughts, helps us to get this more wise perspective on our thoughts.
Now let us formally request for a Dhamma discourse.
Okay. You're all very quiet in the meditation.
Rama Jaloka Dipati Sahampati Padam Saliam Vivarang Ayatata Santi Sata Parajata Nese Tupatani Anusam Imam Pajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. So this is one of the first times I've done one of these Zoom sessions. Feels a bit strange, but I'll do my best. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, just looking at the program over this Vassa, and yes, the opportunity to listen to many Dharma talks from various senior Sangha members. Yeah, well, wonderful, and when I first got interested, well, I heard something about Buddhism that got me interested. This was in the 70s, and I couldn't find any books on Buddhism. In the 70s in England, you just got taught Christianity in schools, and no books. And I wasn't brought up as a Christian because my father was an atheist, and yeah, it took a while before I actually found a book on Buddhism. But now, yes, there's a lot more readily available now. So I think this is our good fortune. But eventually on my sort of explorations, I came across some monks who were living in a vihara in Hampstead in London. I heard about them from the Buddhist Society because that was the only place you could get books. Go down to London to the Buddhist Society, and I was working as an engineer in North London. So one Sunday afternoon, I turned up at the Hampstead Vihara and met a monk by the name of Venerable Sumedho. And yes, and I haven't looked back since. Yeah. But why I'm bringing this to mind, because what I started to do on a Sunday night, I would go to the Hampstead Vihara. It wasn't too far away from where I lived in North London at the time. I go to Sunday night, do chanting, period of meditation, and then listen to a Dhamma talk. And, I really found it so beneficial just to set the mind up for the week ahead. Just to, stop, chant, meditate, and listen to a Dhamma talk. And to me, it's like a carpenter would sharpen his tools at the beginning of the week. And of course, if a carpenter has sharp tools, then of course his work will go better, won't it? Yeah. So I felt the same, just setting the mind up for the week ahead, something skillful, skillful aspirations. And yes, to try and follow these wonderful teachings that I eventually come across, this Eightfold Path. But I would say it's not an easy practice. Well, I didn't find it easy anyway. Maybe lots of habits and karma from my youth, teenage years, university days. I wasn't really into Dharma practice as a student or when I first, in my teenage years. I was more into sense pleasures. And that's what you do as a teenager, yeah. So going to the Hamster Vihara on a Sunday night, listen to Dhamma talk, really, it's very helpful. It really helped to support the Dhamma practice for the following week. And then I'd go back for a top up on a Sunday night again. So it's good. You've got regular top ups for this Vassa. But I just thought I'd share, some of the things about those early days of practice with you. Maybe some of these things you might relate to and find helpful. So one of the first challenges was about keeping precepts. I think this is a challenge for everybody, isn't it? Because we have habits, and to sort of be very skillful with our body and speech initially can be not so easy sometimes. Yeah. So England, for one thing, England is like a drinking culture. So people go to the pub and drink beer. And so in my working life, at certain things like birthdays and things, we'd all go to the pub at the mealtime. And, I decided I would, keep my Buddhist precepts. But there's peer pressure, have a drink, it won't do you any harm, this sort of peer pressure to do something that I didn't, I didn't want to do. So this is sometimes when we want to practice the Dhamma, how sometimes peer pressure can want us to, not do things in a way that according to our aspirations. Yeah. Anyway, the way I got around it, I go to the pub with them, but I drink orange juice. And they'd laugh at me and say, "Oh, look at him with his orange juice." But it didn't bother me because I was keeping to my aspirations, to my, my precepts. Yeah. So I don't know if you find similar situation in your life where there's, peer pressure to behave in a certain way, which is not in line with our aspirations and our precepts. But yes, just something to reflect on. Is there a way you can, work around it? So I say the way I worked around it was orange juice in the pub, no beer. So I wasn't antisocial. I celebrated birthdays with my friends from work, but in a way that was in line with my aspirations. Probably another challenge was around speech, the precepts around speech. So I in my life, I hadn't at that time, created skillful speech habits because, like as a teenager, you grow up sitting around with your friends in a pub, and it's not very skillful speech. It's all about, things that are not helpful, mocking each other, making fun of each other, talking about worldly things. And also, you sort of develop habits that the first thing that comes into your mind comes out of your mouth. And that could be quite upsetting for some people. So, working on skillful speech. Yeah. And I was saying in the meditation today about how we can observe a thought. And if you develop that practice, you can decide whether the thought comes out of the mouth or not. You can have that you can develop that ability to just that moment to know, is this something skillful to say, not skillful to say? This is what we can develop through meditation practice. The ability to be aware of a thought and decide whether we want to act or speak on it. One of the other challenges was around, like backbiting. And, at work, people would come into the office and start complaining about somebody, backbiting about somebody. And, before Dharma practice, I used to, and if I didn't like the person myself, we'd have a good backbiting session, talking about how pain in the neck this person is and what they've done, Now, what I there's a precept, but also what I found because of the awareness that was coming about through meditation, I noticed when I got into a backbiting session, after it was over, I didn't feel very good. So now it didn't seem to, it left a bad taste in the heart and the mind. So, I made that intention, okay, not get caught into backbiting sessions. And the way that used to work for me in the workplace was people would come in and start backbiting, but I just listen. I wouldn't add to it. I just listened to them, and they say what they wanted to say. And okay. But then because you haven't indulged them, they don't stay long. They get it off their chest, and then they leave. So that was good. And that was good for the practice. Sometimes, I did if there was going on something negative about a person, maybe at one time I'd try and say something positive about them, but sometimes that would irritate them. So sometimes I just listen. Sometimes I might say a comment to the contrary, something in favorable about the person. But sometimes it's just better to listen, let them talk, and then they move on, which was very good in terms of help me get my work done. Don't stay too long. I get on with my work. And speech has a certain karma. It leaves a certain result. And the importance of cultivating skillfulness around speech. And I had a mind that could sort of mock people quite easily and very quickly. So it was good that I learned this skill, so I wouldn't upset so many people. And also, the karma of speech can be unfortunate results if something unskillful is said at the wrong time about somebody. And it comes back to one. And I did also moderate some of the topics that people would speak about. So actually, at work, I became a bit known as the Buddhist bore. Boring. Because I didn't indulge a lot of the sort of more frivolous talk anymore. Because the effects on the mind, again. And, that became the most important thing, look after the heart, maintain skillfulness of heart. I had a taste of that. I wanted to keep it going. So, being a Buddhist boy, it was all right. Yeah. So initially I did a lot of reading, but then I realized that it seemed the next thing to do was to start to meditate. Actually, the first time I went to the Hampstead Vihara and met Venerable Sumedho, I arrived at 4 o'clock, and I was there for 3 hours. And at 7 o'clock, Venerable Sumedho said, "Would you like to join us for the meditation?" I said, "Oh, no, I'll come back." The idea of sitting there for 45 minutes. I didn't stay for the meditation that day, but I came back. I mentally prepared myself for meditation practice. Because, sitting still, physically very restless, mentally very restless in those days, it wasn't easy. And I couldn't do it on my own. So that's why I started going every Sunday night, in the group that would support the meditation. I would do it. But I couldn't, in my flat in London, too many, distractions. And in those days, of course, they didn't have internet, but there was enough things to, television and things to distract oneself. So that was really, just to get together some sort of strength of, mindfulness, to be able to sit for a certain amount of time. Took a while. But what was supportive for that, I did a couple of 10-day retreats with Venerable Sumedho in a place in Oxford. And, that really helped me to develop the strength of mind to sit on my own. So that was after maybe, a couple of years. And especially because in 1979, Venerable Sumedho left Hampstead and came to Tithurst. So I didn't have a place to go on a Sunday night anymore. So I determined to try to spend my Sunday night reading some Dhamma. Didn't have tapes and things in those days. It was just reading. Read some Dhamma and try and sit for half an hour or so. And that was, some evenings was challenging. But so a story I'd like to share. So this one Sunday evening, I was feeling so restless. The thought of, sitting meditation, And anyway, I thought, what I do, I go for a walk, try and do a mindful walk, because, walking meditation's part of the practice, even though I hadn't done too much walking meditation in those days, but there was a park just around the back of where I lived. So I thought I'd go for a walk around the park, right? So I walked to the top of the road, and the top of the road was a cinema. And the film that was on the cinema was a martial arts film. Now, I used to do martial arts. Well, maybe I was still doing it at the time too. I used to do karate. And the pull, sort of pull to go and watch that martial arts movie. Yeah, I would have been restless anymore because something to entertain me, But then I sort of reflected. I thought, well, if I go and watch that martial arts movie, yeah, that restlessness will go. But how will the mind be after I watched it? I reflected like that. And I reflected, how would the mind be if I had a walk through the park and went back and did some meditation? So it was a pull, but I managed to do the park walk and go back to my flat for meditation. I got back to the flat, I read some Dhamma book, and I sat meditation. And actually, my mind came to a nice peacefulness. And I felt so happy that I'd taken that choice. So the mind peaceful and set me up for the week ahead at work, rather than being excited with people fighting. But, you know, I mean, initially, to develop meditation, it's good to have the support of a group. Like here, we all come together. We can, even though we're not physically present, and then we together online. So that's some level of support that we have with each other. Because, you know, sometimes it's not so easy to do it on our own, especially maybe in the early days of our meditation practice. But what I also decided to do in terms of meditation practice is look for opportunities. So I used to catch a bus to work. So I just tried to do some mindful breathing while I was on the bus going to work. So I don't know if you take public transport to where you go, but that's an opportunity. You know? In my meal times, lunchtime breaks, I go somewhere and just do some meditation. I used to find an empty office at work and sit there for a while. Or even do some walking around. There's a field opposite where I worked. I used to do some walking meditation around the field. Standing at bus stops, waiting for buses. Sometimes, you know, London buses could be up to 40 minutes late. And after 40 minutes, 3 of them would turn up. I don't know if any, I know some people, I can see some people from England. But yeah, so that was an opportunity to stand and breathe. Now, interesting how it does when you're in the moment and composed in the moment, how you can deal with situations better. And on this one occasion, I was at the bus stop, the bus was late, and I was just standing, you know, breathing, doing this mindfulness of breathing practice. And then this gentleman came up to me, maybe because I was meditating, but he said to me, "I've been watching you for a while. I believe you're up to no good. Come with me to the police station." Yeah? And for a moment, there's sort of, but then something suddenly realized the man looked a bit sort of unbalanced. And then when I just smiled at him, he laughed at me and walked away. And then somebody at the bus stop came up to me and said, "Oh, don't worry about him. He does it to everybody." So how just when we're more composed, how it does help us to deal with unexpected situations when we're in the moment, when we're mindful. You know, queuing up supermarkets, traffic jams. Yeah, just using these opportunities to come into the present moment and breathe. So, because I was keen on developing this meditation practice, that's what I would do. Use the opportunities for, you know, waiting for buses, supermarkets, bus rides, to do some meditation. And of course, over time, it builds up its momentum. And towards the end of my working career, there were times when I get quite peaceful with the meditation in the morning. And I noticed that, you know, how much better the day of work went when that mind was clear in the morning, when there's that sort of clarity of mind in the morning. How the ability to deal with people, situations, went much more smoothly. So all these sort of benefits and good results really gave me a lot of encouragement to keep the practice going. And also just, you know, experiencing a better quality of mind and heart through the practice. rather than the sort of agitated, restless, confused, anxious mind states that I was getting a bit sort of caught up in at the time. So, to use opportunities to develop our mindfulness practice and meditation practice. Maybe the last thing I'd like to share with you is relating to families. So, like I say, I was brought up as an atheist. My father, found the religion he'd come into contact with hypocritical. So he was quite anti-religion. And, when you find something that's been really beneficial to you, of course, you want to share it with your family, don't you? So even though I was working away, my family lived up in Manchester, but I was working in London. But I go home like Christmas time, and a couple of times a year I go and stay with them for a few days, especially Christmas. That's family time. And of course, I wanted to convert my father to Buddhism. Natural is something that you found beneficial. Of course, you want your family to have the same benefits, don't you? But initially, it was going home and arguing, and me trying to force my point of view on him, and him trying to force his point of view on me. Always I'd go away not feeling very good about it because it just got into arguing, So one time I decided, go home and don't talk about Buddhism. just go home and be nice to them, be friendly with them, and help them. So I go home, and I'd learned a few practical skills from my, having to help renovate all the, from doing certain things. So I go home and do a few practical jobs. And that seemed to say a lot more. In some ways, just being friendly with them, calm around them, doing a bit of practical jobs seemed to say more than the words. Your example. Because even if what you're saying is good, like if somebody's trying to force something on you, even if it's good, there's a resistance, isn't there? Because it's just a natural thing. We don't like to be forced to believe things. We don't like to have things forced on us. But one interesting thing, and maybe this is because, they began to sense that, I was benefiting from this Buddhist practice. Once I went home, and I took a book with me by Bhikkhu Bodhi, and it was about the refuges and precepts. I was reading this. And this is before I was a monk. And I went out with my friends. Well, no, it wasn't. Sorry, it was when I was a monk. But I went out with my friends to visit my friends, and my father picked it up and read it and started reading it. And he said, "Oh, this is quite good." He sort of liked what he read because it wasn't about belief. It was just about, about living skillfully, about being wise, being awake. So it was interesting when I was trying to force things on him. Oh, but just leave something there, and something happens. Yeah. So my father never became a Buddhist, but I think some of the teachings sort of made an impression on him. He always stuck to his atheist guns, but I feel he was influenced in a good way by what he'd heard about from Buddhism. And he came to stay in the monastery a few times, and my mother too. My mother was much more open about it, and she didn't have big ambitions for me. She said, as long as you're happy doing what you're doing, that's the main thing. And yeah, and she came to the monastery. She really liked the monastery, and she enjoyed the Sunday afternoon talks at Amavati that Venerable Lumpur Sumedha used to give, and she had some nice experiences at Amavati. So what I'm trying to say really, it's one example that says a lot rather than the words. If people see good results, then this can have its effect. And like with my father, though, at the end of life, we didn't get into arguments anymore, but we still share our differences of opinion. But I always had the attitude, I'm not trying to force anything on him, I'm just expressing my opinion. And then we could have actually good discussion. And actually, I listened to him more too, in a respectful way. And yeah, I could appreciate some of his ideas. And this is good because at the end of the day, we were good friends. Because my father passed away now, but at the end of the day, we were good friends. And, actually, he handled his old age quite well. Fading faculties and physical disabilities. He was quite philosophical about it. Oh, it's just old age. And I think maybe some of the influence from what he'd heard from the Buddha's teachings. And I think, with family, that, some will wonder what you're doing. So they will actually investigate, what's this Buddhism about? And maybe they'll, even without you saying anything, they'll look into the teachings a bit more to understand it, understand what you're interested in. I think the same, also, with family, with children, your example says a lot, Yeah, I mean, people, sometimes talk about their problems with children, but, how are you? I think this is important to reflect on. How are you with them? Are you being an example for them? So they see, this is where we can actually plant seeds. Maybe they might not be interested when they're younger. I know what happens at Chithurst is, kids come when they're young because the parents make them come along. And then when they get the teenage years, they don't want to come, and so they don't come along. But the seeds are planted. They've experienced it, and just trust in that, really. They've come into contact with something that they might look back on later as something that had an effect, planted a seed. I remember just yesterday, somebody came to visit, hadn't seen him for a while, and the son, quite grown up now. But I could see he looked quite bored here. I mean, that's, but he's had some contact and he's heard some of the teachings. So the seeds have been planted. But the importance of our example. But as you say, as the saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So maybe our duty is to, show them the water. It's up to them whether they want to drink or not. But it is good how with Dhamma, how a relationship can change. Like with my father, and being good friends at the end of the day. As a youth, we're always falling out and fighting. But at the end of the day, we were good friends. So these are areas that I found that I try to just talk about, about keeping precepts and how to deal with peer pressure, about developing skillful speech habits. taking opportunities to develop our mindfulness practice and what can support that, and how relating to families. So so these are reflections I'd like to offer on this occasional gathering, and I think with some time for anybody has any questions.
Dhamayang Dhamma Sathaya Sadhu Karang Dadamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
Thank you so much, Lampo.
Okay.
So, brothers and sisters, we'll now like to open the floor for questions. If you have questions for Lampo, please feel free to click on the raise hand button, and you can ask him questions regarding the talk, or regarding the practice, or the examples that Lampo has given. Don't be shy. Maria from Hong Kong. Please allow me to read out the question, Lampo. Nabarun, just give me a moment. I'll call on you in a little while, okay? Let me read out this question from Maria first. So Maria's question to Lampo is, Dear Venerable, even though the effects of practice are cumulative, there are specific occurrences and experiences in your Dhamma path that have caused the decision for you to decide to dedicate your entire life to learn the Dhamma. Okay, so the question is, even though the effects of practice, that are mostly cumulative, but was there a specific experience or occurrence in your own journey, Lampo, that have spurred you to dedicate your whole entire life to the Dhamma?
Well, finding an inner source of happiness through the meditation was a big effect. But also, the wisdom of it. I really began to see this is the only way out of suffering. I didn't want to suffer anymore. And I really had the insight into this was the way out. I didn't see, the other alternatives, they've been okay, maybe some others, but I felt that, this was the real way to go beyond suffering. And the suffering, and especially I always had this fear, like death. As a youth, I always knew one day I'd die, and what would I do about that? And I just, inside that, this would actually help me to deal with all this, because it's about ending suffering. So it was two things really, just developing a sense of inner well-being and happiness through the practice, and also the understanding the wisdom that arose through the practice, the understanding that arose in the mind. Yeah. Before, I was always looking for something outside to fulfill me. But when I realized that fulfillment was through the real fulfillment is through Dhamma practice, that conviction.
Thank you, Lampo. Maria, I hope that answers your question. Nabarun, you had your hand up. Nabarun from Kolkata. Could you unmute yourself? Thank you.
Thank you, Dita. Thank you, Lumpo. So nice to hear your personal journey and the stories you shared. Very inspiring. So thank you. My question is very similar to what the last question was, but it's more in terms of how as laypersons we also feel a kind of dilemma of like we feel a pull towards going for a monastic life, but then also we want to hang on to the the lay life and the attachments of the lay life. And my question is relating to how we should address this dilemma, like how should we understand our inner call, and because there's also the attachments that's very hard to let go. And what was your, in a way you answered that already in a way, but whether how should we go about this inner call? That's your guidance for that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, for me, it more happened more naturally. I didn't think of being a monk when I first got into Buddhism. I just realized it was a good way to practice and the benefits of it. So I was keen to do the practice. And actually, I mean, I just because of my Buddhist, Buddhist principles, I decided to change my work. I was working as an engineer, but it was for military electronics. And the next project was about some fighter aircraft they were doing things for. So I thought, well, I think I'll, try and do something more ethical with my engineering skills. And I thought try and get, find some job in medical electronics or something. But in between jobs, I thought, well, I'll go off to Asia and do some meditation. I've been invited to spend some time in a meditation center in Burma. So I thought, oh, in between jobs, I'll go off to Burma. And so I went off and spent 3 months in monasteries. I ended up in Thailand and Burma. But then I just got hooked on monastic life from that. I came back, I didn't find a job. I just decided, oh, I like the monastic. I didn't have any family commitments and things. So I just didn't get a new job and just went to the monastery. And I think if the time is going to be right to go into to live as a monastic, I think it's when it has to be more clear in the mind. Yeah, if you're still between the two, just practice as a lay person. It's good enough, and as you practice more, you might find, naturally you feel, you want to incline towards monastic life. But, and as one monk said to me once, the world needs good lay people too. And, rather than getting all these doubts, what should I be in lay, should I be in the monastery, just practice where you are and let it unfold. That's it where I am for me. That was my experience. I didn't plan to be a monk. It just sort of just unfolded that way.
Thank you, Lupo.
Okay.
Just a follow-up is, would you advise anyone to go for temporary ordinations?
Yeah, it could be, or even just to go and stay in a monastery as a layperson is all right too. That's good. Yeah. I think spending your time in a monastery either as a layperson or if they offer temporary ordinations. With Chittas, we don't offer like temporary ordinations, but people can come as long-term guests and benefit from that. Yeah. So I think, just spending time in a monastery has its effect, good effect.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Arun. I think a follow-up question on Paul. There is a question here from someone from Singapore. The name is Tan. The question reads, hi, how best to balance the practice with family life if the family do not like me to spend too much time attending Dharma?
Yes, yeah. Well, it's fine a balance that that you're spending time with Dhamma, but the family feel you're also spending time with them. I think that's the sort of balance we have to come to. You can never please everybody. You can't find a balance that pleases everybody, but you just have to decide, okay, how to balance it between Dharma practice and being with family. But also on that note, can being with family be Dhamma practice? Yeah, just to consider that. So, when I'm sometimes with friends who are not into Dhamma practice, just to be with them, be friendly with them. But I still try to be skillful with my speech, but just to spend time, and they might want to talk about worldly things with me, about the latest scandals or whatever. But just to be a friendly and listen, and do activities with family that are in line with the precepts. It might not be as peaceful as meditating, but perhaps we can be mindful of the mind not being so peaceful with this activity. But we can still practice even when we're with the family. Just this idea of practice is only sitting on a cushion and doing on retreat or something like that is a limited idea of what practice is about. But it's how ultimately it's how to be more aware and skillful in whatever we're doing. So in our monastery routine, we start with meditation, we finish during meditation, but there's things to do during the day, work, interactions and things, and how to be skillful with these activities. Yeah.
So
I think I say as long as we're living in line with the precepts, that's the main thing. Yeah. That we're not having to do things that are against the spirit of the precepts.
Thank you, Nampo. Would you say that sometimes the practice can become a bit lonely, but you can choose not to be alone?
Yes. Well, that's why that's why the Buddha said the importance of Kalyanamitta. If we can find a group of people with similar interests who meditate together, I think that's good. We can find that. So even after the Hamsa Vihara closed down, some of us who used to go there decided to carry on meditating together. And so we meet in somebody's house in Hampstead and carry on our meeting together on one night a week and meditating together and talking Dhamma together. We just keep on the theme of Dhamma. Yeah. And, to maintain that sort of spiritual friendship and Kalyanamitta. Yeah, I think that's really good if we can find a group of people who's interested with us and spending time with and having Kalyanamitta.
Thank you, Nampo. Dr. Lee, please allow me to call on you to ask a question. I think it's kind of long. We need to elaborate it, Dr. Lee. So I'm going to unmute you, Dr. Lee. Come on.
Okay. Thank you, Ajahn. I listened with much interest. Your recall on your early exposure to Buddhism, and your recall certainly was most interesting to me, especially your comments on the 5 precepts, and you mentioned about the social cultural life in UK as being revolved around going to the pub, etc., and how you have tried to adapt the precept, obviously, to that form of social existence. And I thought that was rather interesting, the way that you overcame it by only having orange juice. And of course, I think that for recall, as far as the manner in which it has influenced perhaps your interaction through speech, being mindful of what you say, how you say it, etc. But of course, when you mentioned the 5 precepts, of course, I thought that you would start off with the first and go on, but you you didn't recall.
Well, I didn't find it challenging. I didn't find it challenging to stop harming living beings. You know? But it's more challenges around, you know, the speech and the
Yes.
alcohol. Yeah, those are the ones that was more challenging at the time. I didn't have any harmful intentions or do what or taking things from stealing and things like that. In fact, actually, through my Buddhist practice, I wouldn't like work. In our engineering office, there were things that like tissues and things that you could take home, without sneaking them out, And I remember going to one place, a friend from work, and I went there. Oh, so that's the same toilet paper we have at work. Oh, that's the same tissue paper we have at work. And then I wouldn't, I wouldn't do that. I thought, no, this is not taking what is not given. And that was through my Buddhist practice. Before I do things that would, a bit. So one borderline thing I do was using the monastery phone to ring up my friends, and that would charge the monastery for my personal calls. I stopped doing that because I wanted to live quite ethically and not exploit, funds from my work. I became much more ethical in my life at work, and so if I did phone up a friend from work, I'd work overtime to pay it off. I wouldn't claim for it. So I just became much more ethical in my approach at work. Honest.
The other things that enthralled me, of course, was your recall about the 2 separate incidences, about the choice of whether to carry on with your walking meditation or to actually go to attend the Kung Fu movie. And and the bus incident. And it just, as you related it, Ajahn, I thought, these 2 separate incidences have happened a long time ago. And yet you seem to recall these 2 with such clarity.
Yeah, they were quite significant happenings, where I really reflected on the benefits of the practice,
Obviously, it must have a significant impact on your practice, for you to actually remember and to recall it with such clarity.
Yeah, and there's been actually many incidents in my, especially as a monk, because you're a bit of a target looking like this in the UK. And many times people have done things when I've been traveling that it was good that I dealt with quite well because I was in the moment, But maybe just to make one more instance. So I'm coming back from the Hampstead group in the evening on the tube, right? I'm sat on the tube, so I'm doing, I'm just mindfully breathing in and out. And so while I'm sat there, some guy comes up to me and goes, yeah, like this, yeah? And then as he goes, yeah, like this, his friend takes a photograph. Yeah? But because it didn't bother me, I just looked at him, because somehow the mind that's in the moment sort of sees that there's actually no real danger, It knew that. So I just looked. I think they were quite disappointed with the photograph. I think they expected, it's something like this, But, so I always, say, and I always have this principle when I'm traveling and doing things, stay in the moment, then actual protection. Yeah. Stay in the body. When I'm walking through airports, walking meditation through airports, feel my feet touching the earth as I'm walking through. It's quite good, like when you're in this, when you go to an airport, before you get into the lounge, you have to go through all these sort of winding shops, where they try to tempt you and pull you out, just to stay with your feet touching the earth. And it's peaceful, that way.
Your last sharing, if I may just say, about your relationship to your atheistic father was most interesting because it's very similar to Dr. Matthew Ricard's relationship with his dad, as contained in his book, The Monk and the Philosopher, which I'm almost certain
yes,
you have
yeah,
read,
okay, yes, I
right?
know.
Because, you know, his dad as a philosopher was just as resistant as I imagine your atheistic dad must have been to you regarding the Buddhist teachings. And eventually, I think that both his dad and his mom, who became a nun actually at the end, you know, they were convinced by an approach that is very, very similar to what you shared with us. And that's what came to mind immediately as you were relating it. So thank you very much
Yes.
for that.
You know, the ironic thing about this was I couldn't find a book on Buddhism, but one Christmas when I was visiting my father, I mentioned an interest in Buddhism, and he said, "Oh, I came across a book on Buddhism," and he actually went to a bookshop and he found it for me. So actually, he actually got me my first book on Buddhism. So that's the irony of it. So
Anyway,
yeah.
thank you so much for sharing.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lee. There's a question from a friend from Malaysia. Bay, if you'd like to ask your question, you can click on your raise hand button. If not, I will help you read out the question.
Yeah, I'm not so used to all this technology, so if you want to,
yeah,
read it out.
It's quite small.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is this, Lumpur. Hi, may I learn how to tackle bad habits? For example, spending too much time daily on online social media, on non-Dhamma related news, on YouTube and on movies. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying before, the things we do, you have to just look at the effects these things have on our mind, you know. And if we know something's not having a good effect, then maybe try to moderate it, you know. I mean, you can't just cut it all together, you know, because we have to live a life. But yeah, I mean, just how to moderate it, really. I mean, there's so much now, especially young people, about the sort of bad effects of like social media and things. You know, gossip and things. It does have its effect on the mind, gets it proliferating and also, you know. So I think if we can moderate it, I think it'd be much beneficial. And you know, habits are habits. They're not. We weren't born with them, and because we weren't born with them, there's something that over time we can let go of them. You know, they're not fixed things. And you know, we weren't born looking at social media things. So you know, it does take effort and some level of determination. But if we are sincere in our efforts and determination, we can get better at it and learn to moderate it more. And you know, we will feel a benefit from it, the quality of mind that comes from more restraint with these things. Yeah, and you know, also you can say that, you know, the more we feel a better quality of mind, the more or less we'll be inclined towards these things because it's going to affect that. So the more you find more happiness from, you know, from skillfulness, because we look at social media because of boredom, restlessness, and all these sort of mind states. But if we sort of, you know, do our practice and learn to let go of some of these, you know, these restless, bored mind states, then we feel some well-being, less inclined towards gossip and social media. And yeah, I can say for me, I'm just not interested in all that. So, gossip. Yeah, it's nice to just have a peaceful mind, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, it takes time. Be patient, but try to moderate it. That's my advice. And so the more you have the benefits of practice, the more strength you'll find in yourself to limit it. But just notice the effects of it really.
Thank you, Longpa. We have time for one or two more last questions. Anyone? Yes, Sandra. Sandra, please unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Hi, Longpo. Thank you for your Dhamma sharing. I have one question that might not be directly related to what you shared, but it was in my mind because I just heard it like a few weeks ago. It's related to the Ovada Patimokkha, Kanti Paramang Tapotitika. I was actually wondering why Kanti is like the highest austerity or tapa, like patience of all things, and it was mentioned like in the beginning. So yeah, I just want to hear from you. Thank you.
Saying that patience is the supreme practice for letting go of defilement, right? Because when we're naturally in Dhamma practice, we're going to experience unpleasant mind states. We're going to have to learn to be mindful of unpleasant mind states. And patience is a quality that helps us to bear with the challenges, the difficult mind states. And if we don't have patience, then we just distract ourselves, don't we? When something difficult comes up, we do something else. But patience is the quality that, if we bring it to mind, helps us to stick with it, even if it's not pleasant. And that, important for that strength of mind that can actually stay with something unpleasant is important in Dhamma practice, because it's not always going to be wonderful. The mind can produce all sorts of things and unpleasant things. And learning how just to bear with it. So how to bear with something unpleasant but still behave skillfully with that. So yeah, like I say, somebody shouts at you, calls you all names, and it has you respond to that. But to be patient with that feeling without acting or speaking on it, and without saying something nasty back, And that's where patience comes in. If you develop that patience, saying you're patient with, people being abusive, whatever. I've been abused as verbally abused as a monk, and I just you have to bear with these things sometimes. And that's where patience comes in. If you're not patient, I don't think, if you don't have patience, you won't develop your practice, because there's naturally going to be unpleasant things arising in practice. It's not all going to be a bed of roses, because of the mind, the mind manifests things and situations, people, things, in monastery life, unpleasant things, issues happen, and pleasant things happen, and you have to deal with. It's part of, life as a human being. So you have to be just patient with difficult people, patient with situations.
Does it mean that like we are being patient when like something that's not favorable to us happening, and then till it fades away in a way?
Yeah,
like
being willing to be with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, our Thai teacher, Ajahn, he said two things helped him in his practice. One was the contemplation of impermanence, and the second was patient endurance.
Wow.
Those are two things that really helped him in his practice. But, contemplating impermanence, he knows this won't last forever. To reflect on that. This difficulty is not going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. Patient with it. This mind state won't last forever. This situation won't last forever. Just be patient and deal with it best you can. But it'll change.
Yeah. So beautiful. Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay, you're welcome.
So beautifully put, Longpa.
Excuse me?
So beautifully put.
Well, thank you.
So, anyone has got any more last questions? Well, if we have got no more questions for Long Paul, I think we also have to offer Long Paul our compassionate giving, as he would need to go prepare himself for his meal, his one meal and first meal of the day, to give him the energy for the practice. So we'd like to formally close this Q&A session, and also request Long Paul lead us in offering the Buddha's words on loving kindness as part of this reflections, and the verses on sharing and aspirations.
And shall I begin that chanting now?
Just a moment, let me put up the word.
Yeah, okay. Give me the cue when I'm to start chanting. Yeah?
Yes. Can you see?
I can see now, yeah.
Oh, yes, please, Long Paul, may you please lead us.
Okay, yes. So this is, we say, like I was saying in my talk, chanting, meditation, just to bring skillful things to mind. The more we do this, the more this will influence how we guide our lives. So the Buddha's words on loving kindness are very good guidelines for how to live our lives. Now let us chant the Buddha's words on loving kindness. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the supreme abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, May my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless through the goodness that arises from my practice. And to this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled.
Let us offer our closing homage to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, 15 Anjali. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivadin. Bow. Swakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Namang Namasami. Bow. Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Bow. Brothers and sisters, let's offer our respect to the poor by offering three bow. Bow.
Thank you so much, Longpo.
Yes, and may I express my anumodana for all these sessions and all the work that's gone into providing these opportunities for people to, to begin their week with some reflecting on the Dhamma and some Dhamma practice. May the benefits of this, this Vassa period, may this bring blessings to you all, and be of great support for you in following this wonderful Eightfold Path that the Buddha has laid down for us. So I wish you all blessings and benefits from your practice of the Dhamma.
Sadhu, 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 anumodana. We offer anumodana to you too, Longpo. Without you graciously and courageously accepting this Dhamma Zoom session, we won't see you in cyberspace. We know how uncomfortable you are looking at pixelated screens.
Especially at the moment, I'm just seeing myself at the moment. So
You can put
talking to myself.
You can put the gallery view, and then you can see many of your friends, and many of our friends, you know, from far and near, be it whether they're from New Zealand, they're Malaysia, Thailand, you know, we have people from the UK, you know, and from all over the world, even from Canada, here in your presence with you as well. So we're very grateful.
Yeah, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And enjoy your solitary retreat, Lampong.
Oh yes, thank you very much. Not till September, but yeah, thank you. And farewell from paradise. Yes, our best wishes to you all.
Thank you, Lampong. See you. Bye.
Okay, bye, 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 everyone. Bye.